video, I want to talk about why is that guilt makes us want to eat more, when logically it should have exact opposite of the reaction, right? If I'm feeling guilty, I shouldn't want to eat anymore, but somehow I want to eat even more. And I will be giving you one antidote that helps you make sure that you will stop eating out of guilt. Let's talk about first what guilt actually does. It feels like it should help, right? But because it sounds like an accountability, but most guilt around food is not an accountability, it's a self-attack. Let me explain the loop. You ate more than you wanted. Then guilt shows up and it makes you think the things like, oh, I messed up, I am horrible. Then story escalates. That, oh, I always do this. I'm never able to stop eating when I know I'm not hungry anymore. I have no control. I ruined everything. What happens with that is the new nervous system feels worse. It feels attacked, it feels shamed, it feels stressed, and your brain starts looking for relief. And relief is food. We are using food very frequently to make sure we feel better. So you eat again. And now guilt is even louder. That's why guilt is not a solution, it's a fuel. And it makes every eating feel like a test. When food feels like a test, your brain goes in all or nothing thinking. Either I can do it perfectly, or every other option means I'm failed. If I overate once, it means that I failed all of my weight loss progress, all of my recovery progress. Now it means I should start from zero. When in reality, it really doesn't. And then you start finding all the reasons why you should enjoy yourself now. You have been working on recovery for so long. You have been losing weight, so you're not allowing yourself to eat a bunch of stuff. And now, when everything is ruined and you have to start from zero again, you're gonna want to eat everything that is not allowed anymore. Then you're gonna create this loop when you're gonna start from tomorrow again. That's why people end up in the full-on relapse and the spiral after one overeating session. It's when guilt turned meal into a verdict. Now, let's talk about antidote, because we would think the antidote will be to think positively about it, right? It's actually not. I call it a data mode. So what it is the data it gives me on the situations I end up in my life, which makes me want to overeat. Let me explain. So, data mode sounds like this. I overate. That is very normal for me because I'm on a recovery route and I'm trying new things, which are not yet habits. So some days having a slip up, it's normal. When you learn new skill, which is what you're doing when you're going through recovery, when you're going through weight loss, you're learning a bunch of new skills, like how to stay with hunger, how to exercise more frequently, how to not eat when you're not hungry. Like there are a bunch of other skills that we'll learn, and one of them is to know that I overate and it didn't feel good. I don't really feel like myself right now, but it doesn't mean that everything is ruined. It means that I just fell down learning something and I can stand back up and go continue doing it. Second thing is what happened right before. For me, it means that new pattern is showing up, which I haven't worked on before. So I need to find out what are the steps of the chain to see which part I can work on to make sure this habit will not stay a habit. The third thing is what did I do? Like how did I react to it that lead me to overeating? And last part will be what can I do instead so I won't end up overeating next time in the same exact scenario or in a similar one. So basically what you're doing is you are gathering all the data and getting ready for the next time, because if you had one slip up, it means that in a similar situations, there are high chance you will have a slip up again, and there are a bunch of ways you can avoid it. One of them being that find out where it's coming from, what are the things you did, what are the things you can do differently so you won't end up feeling guilty about it. And feeling guilty might not go anywhere in the first time, but you can still do things despite feeling guilty. If you're not gonna go with the chain where your guilt is taking you, if you're not gonna start thinking that I'm horrible, I don't deserve it. My life is useless. I am not able to I'm not able to maintain my progress. I'm ruining everything. Don't go in that chain. Start thinking about alternative things. Start thinking about how to fix it for next time, and it will make sure that you are not having these negative self-thoughts. And the biggest thing about this data mode is that next meal you're going back to normal, because I'm creating all of these things, like I'm working on things that I can do better next time. Instead of me feeling that everything is ruined, now I give myself this permission to not start working from tomorrow, but start working from next meal. I'm gonna be thinking about it from next meal, not from next day or not from Monday. That's very, very important to set with your brain and have this unspoken rule that every time I slip up, I end up overeating. I'm not fixing it next Monday. I'm not fixing it tomorrow. I am working on it from next meal. I'm working to make sure that from next meal, I'm not gonna overeat. And don't try to fight it with willpower. I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's not gonna work. As someone who tried it, as someone who failed it a bunch of 100 times, and it's not gonna work. And it's not about you. You cannot fight with willpower against habits. You just can't. When guilt hits in these scenarios, which I already mentioned that it will, you can reframe the thoughts you have. You can have go-to phrases. For me, it's first thing that comes to mind is my next meal gonna be normal. Then it's I'm not fixing this with more restriction. That's also important for me. Next one is I ate more than I planned. It's a data for me. It breaks the cycle because you're making sure you're not allowing your guilt to drag you down and give you more food. What we can do after overeating, because maybe you were not able to prevent overeating and it did happen and now it feels very, very bad. First thing I would like to do, which I try to do every time, is to have some type of ritual, which means that my overeating cycle is over. It can be anything. For me, it's drinking water because I like water. It's very accessible, especially in the kitchen or anywhere. I have it everywhere with me. So I drink water, and for my brain, it means that we're done. I experienced something, it didn't feel great. I ended up overeating for one reason or another, but it's a ritual of I'm done. And instead of me punishing myself, I'm going back on step number 1, which is to find what were the things that made me end up overeating, and instead of feeling guilty about it, I'm collecting the data. Our main goal after overeating is to come back to normal as soon as possible. Now, let's talk about second part of the guilt, because sometimes people use guilt as a control strategy. What I mean is sometimes people think that if I feel guilty enough, I will change. I have to be at the bottom of my life to change, and guilt will help me get there. That strategy will work, but it's not gonna give you a system which will be maintainable because it creates stress. And the first thing we want when we experience stress is food again. So guilt will end up giving you more ways how you can have more food instead of making you want to do a bunch of stuff to make sure it's not going to happen again. And like for some people, this negative reinforcement does work, but it's short term because that desire, that motivation goes away with time. And when it's gone, then you're left with no tools against guilt, and guilt is unfortunately stronger because we've been feeding it, and not just we, like society, environment, everybody is feeding guilt without much understanding. If I had to give you one sentence, I would say that you don't need to hate yourself to change. Who said that? The paradox is that when you accept and love yourself the way you are, that's when you start to change. I don't remember, but if you want help to find this recovery system which works specifically for you, join my free Skool community where I can help you find these exact tools specifically for you. Link will be in the description. Bye.